don't find fault, find a remedy. Henry Ford said that once. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, episode 56, July recap and leadership thoughts with myself, Scott McCarthy. Hey folks, welcome back to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast. It's your host and founder here, Scott McCarthy. And today is a recap episode. Yep, we're going to talk about the previous month's episodes, and we're going to talk about the upcoming month's episodes. So, if this is your first time listening to the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, welcome. This is a monthly recap show, so it's a little bit different than my normal weekly show, okay? As I said earlier, we're going to recap, and then I'm going to recap basically what I went through for the past month. I'm going to talk about what's coming up in the current month, and I'm going to just talk about what's on my mind at the end. All right. So let's talk about the previous month, shall we? And I'm going to skip all the marketing stuff because you know what? I'll give you guys a break on that, right? Anyway, let's talk about the previous month, shall we? And I personally thought it was a awesome month. Awesome month. We kicked off episode 52 with managing explosive growth with Jacob Brarsgad. And basically what we talked about in that whole episode was how Jacob's company basically just blew up in people, revenue, business, and how do you manage that when all of a sudden your organization gets explosive? It grows explosively. What things do you need to take into consideration? What are some of the challenges that you're going to come across? What are some of the pitfalls you may come across? What are some of the advantages and disadvantages to explosive growth? And all those types of things. So that was episode 52. Now, if this is all new to you, remember, if you just go to movingforwardleadership.com/ the episode number, and they'll bring you right to the show notes, and you can listen to any and every show that way, okay? Again, it's movingforwardleadership.com/ whatever number. In this case, 52. Moving along, episode 53, Managing Employee Engagement with Joe Dodds. Had a lot of good fun with this one with Joe. We were up late for her, cause she's from England. We talked about employee engagement and how leaders can truly get their employees engaged with the vision of an organization, how they can buy into it. And basically Joe has her system of 4 different enablers for employee engagement. And we talked about that through the whole episode. Also to note, Joe brought me on her show as well, and I talked all about my leadership experience from a military perspective predominantly, as well as talking about the podcast. And basically, it's more of a productivity show, and it's basically how I keep my life organized. That may sound crazy for those who know me, but it is true. How I keep my life organized, running, my military career, plus the podcast, plus being a father and husband. It can be a bit nuts. All that to say is episode 53, Enabling Employee Engagement with Joe Dodds. If you haven't listened to that one yet, I definitely recommend you head out and do so. Okay? Moving along, episode 54, the most downloaded episode to date. And if you haven't listened to this episode yet, well, you know what? Just hit pause on this episode and go to movingforwardleadership.com/54. Why? Because it is Develop the Mindset of a Navy SEAL with Mark Divine. Amazing show. First Special Forces guest I've had on the Moving Forward Leadership Podcast, Mark Divine, and he definitely did not fail in his mission in delivering an amazing episode. Just talk about how you can get into a warrior mindset, how you can be way he puts it, the way of the SEAL. And he has a book, which I'm literally looking at my copy right now on my desk. Gotta get that thing finished up. But Mark goes through how we can, be more mindful, how we can get in that mindset, how we can develop a mindset of a world-class warrior like he is, of a Navy SEAL. If you have not listened to this one, and believe me, this is the top downloaded show of all time on Moving Forward Leadership, then hit pause and then head on over and grab that one. And then finally, the final episode for July, episode 55, Leading with Your Mind, featuring Silk Celia. We get into, as well, it's still along the mindset route, but it's more along the lines of your subconscious mind. And we're talking a bit about that and how we can use accessing your subconscious mind to enable decision making, speeding up decisions, how you can make clearer decisions. Okay. So it's a little bit of a different episode. It's not really, like a leader focused one. Is more wrapped around of neuroscience plus leadership plus decision making, all wrapped into one for a nice sandwich there. Okay. So those were the episodes for this past month. And by the looks of it, from the numbers, you guys have definitely been enjoying them very much, especially Mark Divine's episode. Yeah, definitely huge spike on downloads with that one. I guess if, from talking to my podcasting friends, once you start mentioning Special Forces guys, the audience seem to love that very much. Anyway, let's just go over them quickly again. 52, Explosive Growth with Jacob Bard's got. 53 was Enabling Employee Engagement, Joe Dodds. 54 again, Developing the Mindset of a Navy SEAL with Mark Divine. And then 55, Leading with Your Mind, featuring Silk Celia. All right. So again, if you want to listen to one of those shows, just go to movingforwardleadership.com/whatever the episode number is, and it'll bring you right to the show notes. So now what I'd like to do is talk about what's upcoming the next month within August. So upcoming in August, I got basically 3 episodes lined up ready to roll for you guys. Okay. And the first one being Surviving Leader Burnout with Michael Levitt. Okay. We're going to talk about burnout. What is it? What leads to it? How you can avoid it in the first place. And then if you do find yourself burnt out, how can you recover from it? Okay. So Michael and I have a great conversation all over burnout, because you know what, leaders, we definitely get burnt out sometimes. We get burnt out from our obligations within our work, our organizations, at home, and just trying to basically live life, right? So yeah, talking about surviving leader burnout. Moving on, then we'll have Art Barter. And Art and I have a conversation about servant leadership. What actually servant leadership is, how leaders can develop their servant skills, and then most importantly, how you can turn around and then implement a servant leadership style framework in your organization to basically propel your organization forward, okay? And then the final episode upcoming for the month, before I do a similar one like this, is with Nathan Reger. And Nathan and I have a great conversation all around conflict, managing conflict, why people struggle with conflict, some practical ways to resolve conflict between people, yourself, and someone else. Because guess what? Conflict, it's common. It's everywhere, right? And it's not necessarily a bad thing. And we'll talk about that in that episode as well. So that's myself and Nathan Reger. And that's what we'll be talking about. So those are the 3 upcoming episodes for August. Hope you're excited about them. I know I am. I enjoyed every single one of them. And yeah, that's pretty well it for the month. Okay. So that was last month, and that was the upcoming month. So some things on my mind. You know, what's on Scott's mind recently? And what I want to talk about is, turnover. Just a few weeks ago, I handed off that squadron I was commanding of 200 soldiers. Turned it over. I'm no longer doing that no more. I'm actually solo right now. The military has me on some training for the next, basically, it looks like, for the next 2 years. So I'm not going to be leading people, but I'm going to be leading myself. But I'll talk about leading yourself another time. Today I want to talk about is when you leave an organization, when you leave your job, when you leave and you don't come back. Because guess what? One day, you will leave your organization. You will leave your position. You'll leave your job. You'll leave the people that you're currently leading. Right? So some people have a mentality behind this. Why care? I'm gone. Right? My response to that is, if you don't care about what you set up for, how you set up your successor for success, you've just spent however many years, so in my case, 2 years, of doing what you've been doing, all for nothing. right? It'll just go down the drain. Now, some people may argue, say it's going to go down the drain anyway because someone new is going to come in and do what they want. True. But if you set the foundation for your successor to come in, then basically they're going to fall in on that foundation, take the reins, and keep pushing forward. Yeah, they'll do it in their own way, but guess what? We're all different. We're all human. We have our own different ideologies and concepts and ways of looking at things. The way I look at something is not the way you look at something. And that's fine, right? But if you don't set your successor up for success, everything you've done will be for nothing. So how can you set up a successor for success? And you may go, Scott, well, I may not even know the successor. Right. Who knows? Maybe they won't have someone hired. Us in the military, it's very, very structured that way. We know who's coming behind us. We meet with them. We go through a handover period and all that. Whereas in your organization, you may not have that. You may leave and they may not hire someone for months down the road. So how can you set up someone for success? And there's a few different ways. The most important way is to make sure that you have someone that you've mentored that can run with it while they're waiting for a successor. And maybe that person will become your successor, right? But I've talked about this before, and it goes along the lines of delegation and mentorship and all those jazz. But you need a mirror copy of yourself somewhere in your organization so that if you go down or leave in this case, they can take over. Okay? What you know, they should know. How you are thinking, they should be thinking the same way. You want that mirror person, okay, in your organization so that they can take the reins in the interim and keep the organization moving forward. And essentially it'd be just in line with your vision if you've made them a complete mirror copy of yourself. So that's one way. Here's another way of setting your organization up for success when you're ready to leave, okay? And that is documenting what you do, who you talk to, okay? The things that are important. So, for example, when I was getting ready to leave, I left in end of July. Around January, February, I started a OneNote document, workbook. And it had all kinds of different categories, all kinds of different pages. And as I was doing things, I was taking notes and putting in this OneNote workbook so that my successor would get access to it one day. And that's exactly what I did. So everything from the organizational structure to the issues that were going on, my key contacts, who I talked to, my thoughts on them, whether they be good or bad, just letting this person know everything that I knew and I would capture. So as I did something, as those weird heralds popped up, those oddball things that don't come up, every day that your successor will come across, I took notes and put it down so that when she showed up, I basically handed all this over. In fact, I gave it to her ahead of time before she even showed up. And what that enabled is she started getting into the mindset. Okay, these are the different things. These are the people I need to think about. These are the issues that are still going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So everything that was in that document was set up for success. Okay. And then the final thing is actually meeting with the successor. And you go, well, Scott, if I leave and they don't hire someone for a couple of months, then how am I supposed to meet them? Well, maybe you come back. Maybe that's a condition. A lot of businesses do it when the owner of the business, right, sells the business. A lot of the times the condition is there's a couple months, 6 months, maybe even a year or two, where the previous owner actually still sticks around to basically help transition. Okay. But if you're not able to do that, if you're not the owner of a business, but you're working, maybe you say, hey, I will come back for a day or two when you finally hire somebody. I'll come in off retirement. Maybe the company may throw you a few bucks for it. May not. If you truly care about what you've achieved over the time that you've been there, you truly care about the people that you've worked for all this time, then maybe you'd come back just for the sake of coming back to make sure that a good handover to teach the person coming in, right? So it's something to think about and discuss before you actually leave. Discuss with your current organization, and if you're moving on to a future one, well, let them know that, this is something you'd like to do. Now, if you're going to a competitor, they may not want that so much. You're going to have to, basically do your own risk analysis on that. So again, make a mirror copy of yourself, right? Mentor somebody to take over for you, take detailed notes, and then come back and actually plan and give basically a turnover day or two on teaching the new person the ropes. For myself, it was basically 3 solid days. 3 days, long 3 days of constant meetings and briefings and discussions on everything regarding the squadron that I commanded to my successor. So that's what's going on, my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Let me know. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Have you done this in the past? Are there some other things which I didn't talk about that you think may help? Let me know, and we can easily have a discussion. And you know where a good place to have that discussion is at? Moving Forward Leadership Mastermind, folks. Just go to facebook.com / Moving Forward Leadership. You find it. Or if you just go to movingforwardleadership.com / mastermind, it'll take you right to it, because that is where we have conversations daily about leadership and how you can be a better leader. All right, folks, I am not going to talk your ear off anymore. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, keep pushing, keep trying, keep moving forward. Take care now.